In today's video, I am going to install this wireless tank gauge to monitor the water level in a water holding tank I have in my house. This gauge here monitors the level in the holding tank, and it mounts on the top of the tank itself. This unit here is the remote part. This sensor will display remotely what the level is in the tank, and here is the float. Incidentally, I do not do product placement. This particular unit is just the one I bought because I need it in a house that I have that has 2 apartments, and the tenants in the top of the house have no idea what level of water is in the holding tank. I paid $115.30 for this unit. I bought it off of Amazon.com. Out of the box, this is what we have, just the 2 units. The transmitter part here and its float there, the weighted float, and the receiver. According to the instructions, the receiver requires 4 AAA batteries. So my instructions tell me to remove the back cover of the receiver unit and to remove the front cover of our transmitter. Where's that? Remove the front cover of the transmitter because apparently we have to access the dials here to set our full and empty settings, and also to remove the back cover to put our batteries in. Now, I don't know if the sequence of this really matters, but it tells me to put the batteries into the receiver unit first, and then the transmitter, and then apparently these 2 units are going to try to sync up. There we go, we see signs of activity on the front of that. And after we get our batteries in, little antenna indication comes on there. It told me that would come on. And apparently after we put the batteries in the transmitter, it's going to take about 3 minutes for these 2 units to sync up. So let's see what we see on the display. We'll put that in there, and we'll come back in 5 minutes or so and see if they were right on the 3 minutes. Okay, I see activity here. It's well over 3 minutes now, and these 2 units seem to be cycling between 120 and 3, so that could be a good sign. I'm assuming the L here is for liters because the instructions tell me to change it from liters to gallons, that I want to hold the minus sign on both the transmitter and the receiver for 4 seconds. So I want gallons. So there's the minus sign on the transmitter, there's the minus sign on the receiver, and I'm going to press them both down starting now. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, and I see gallons pop up on the screen there. To input the volume of your tank on the transmitter, what you do here is, here's the set button. We hit that twice, and then we hold it down for 4 seconds to get into the programming mode. So I'm just going to show you here. We go 1, 2, then we hold it down, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Once it starts flashing like that, then we can change that through our plus or minus sign. So if here's the minus button, I'm hitting there. If I hit the plus sign, it goes up, like that. Now, we can see that keeps getting a lot higher. I think this is made for a much larger tank than what I'm going to be monitoring the volume in. My tank is only 190 gallons. And this instructions here say that you get it to the closest 132 gallons. So obviously these numbers are way higher. So I'm just going to put it down to, what was the second highest? 264, and then it's going to hit the set button to save that. Here's the holding tank that we want to monitor the level of watering. We have a black piece of tape up here. That's going to be our high level mark, full tank. Down below, we're going to set this with our float as the low level mark. I drilled a 35mm hole here at the top of the water tank with a hole saw right over there. If you're not sure how to use a hole saw, I have a video for that, and I'll put a link in this video to it. So that is where we're going to mount our gauge at the top of this water tank. My black needle here, which moves as we pull this float down, seems to be kind of at a whack there. I think my float's going to be roughly around that distance when it's at the top of the tank full. So I'm going to move this a little bit here. Just seems to click as I move it, so I'll leave it to around there. Next, we're going to calibrate the gauge for the full level mark on our tank and the empty mark. To do this, ideally you have two people handy. I should have had one of my sons around, but I don't. So what I've done, if I had somebody to assist me, I would just get them to hold the transmitter here up at the top of the tank on the outside of it, and I would pull the float down. But what I've done is I just took a piece of cardboard, cut a groove out here, and I have it hanging over the outside of the tank. We're going to need to access the set button in behind there for this process, and we're going to move our level indication mark here, and we're also going to be moving these full and empty indicators. To start the calibration process, we have to hit the set button here 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then hold it in for 4 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Our indicators flash here. So at this point, what we gotta do is take our float, move it down the side of the tank. And the instructions tell us to not do this at a rate faster than 10 centimeters per second. I'm going to slowly move it down until the top of the float reaches our full mark on the tank. So I'm just going to tape that here for a second. As I said, it'd be a great time to have an extra set of hands. Let's see, that should be close enough, I guess. Now we have to move our dial indicator, the green one, to the full mark, and we hit the set button once. Now, back down to our float. My reading may be off a little bit here because this float has moved. Shouldn't be too much though. So again, I'm just going to take this slowly down here. Try not to exceed the 10 centimeter per second indication that we were told to do until we get to the bottom of the tank. And then once we have that there, the float at the bottom empty mark, we're going to move our, I believe that was a red indicator up there, to empty. And here we are at empty. Oops. There. Tape that there. Oops. Gonna have to just stop for a second. My tape has let loose on me there. Okay, so I've got that float taped at the empty mark. Head back up here. And our red mark is already at the empty there, pretty much, but you're gonna wanna move that. See our black indicator? We moved the red one to the same spot. And we go around to the back. And let me get that camera in there. And we're gonna hit the set again. Now, I'm not gonna make you watch this part of it. All we do is go back down to our float and raise it up, not exceeding that 10 centimeter per second rate again. When I raised the float back up, the instructions told me to take it to the 90% full mark. Now here's the 100% full, and that's what I was calculating, roughly at about 90%. Now if we go up here, look at our indication on the transmitter. Hopefully you can see that. I think that's actually flashing at 97%. So I'm a little off there, but that looks pretty good. Looks like it's working. So now what I gotta do is I gotta pinch the string here and hold that level, and then drop that down in the drop the float down into the tank. So I've held my string there to keep that distance we already measured. There's the float. I'm going to drop that down into the tank slowly. The float has been dropped into the tank. So far so good. This tank is actually empty right now. We can see our red indicator right there, and the black indicator is showing empty. I'm going to power on the pump. There's not enough water in the well to fill this tank, but it will fill it to some degree, and we'll see if it, do a little test, see if it looks accurate. Here's the breakers to power the pump in the well. I'll turn those on. That tank should start filling with water. We can see our level indicator going up here slowly as the pump is starting to fill the tank. Here's the water level in the tank here, which is roughly a third full. Our indicator at the top, there it says 45 gallons, but when it cycles through 34%. So that's showing about a third, so that looks good. I have the receiver in another room, and it's also reading 34%. And here's the receiver, probably about 30 feet away in another room. And as I say, it's reading 34%. But what I want to do is I'm going to turn the pump on and pump more water into the tank. And I'm going to take this receiver outside into my vehicle and see if it updates. Kind of want to do a range check on this. I turned on the pump to the well, and that tank should be slowly starting to fill up now. So the instructions in this had mentioned at one point that it takes about 10 minutes for this unit to update sometimes. I want to verify that, and as I say, I want to see if this thing has got a half decent range on it. The house is over that way. So it's only about 2 or 3 minutes after we looked the last time, and I'm not going by the gallon indication, as I had mentioned earlier about the, I'm not paying attention to that reading. I'm looking for that 45% reading there. So this thing does seem to update quicker than what they had mentioned in the instructions, and the range is definitely going to be good enough for my purposes. The water tank in the house filled to about half full, and then this indicator, actually this time it took probably about 5 minutes to actually show that on the display there at 55%. So the test went pretty good. If there's any issues I run into with this, I will update this video in the comments field. But it seems to work fine so far.